Wow. What's up, guys? How you doing this afternoon? Got some interesting news coming across the wire today. Not directly related to the Seahawks, but it could be. And I know that a lot of Seahawks fans are going to see this and go, oh boy. So, in its own way, it is related to the Seahawks. So, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's go into the layers here. And let's ultimately decide how much it makes sense for this news to actually directly involve the Seahawks. So, headline. Big headline from Adam Schefter earlier today, confirmed by other sources. The Rams and Bobby Wagner are mutually agreeing to part ways, sources tell ESPN. So, Bobby Wagner spends 1 year in LA, has one of his best years ever for a terrible team, and then he pieces out. The Rams need more cap space, and Wagner wants to win, according to Adam Schefter. And that second part of that statement is definitely, I mean, obviously every player wants to win, but I do want to come back to that statement later. So, Bobby Wagner is going to be part of this upcoming free agent class. And of course, I've already made some videos about the middle linebackers, the inside linebackers in this year's free agency class. Now you can add Bobby Wagner to that list, and he's going to be near the top of the list. He is. Despite his age, he played so well last year, he's going to be near the top. Now, for whatever it's worth here, Mike Garofalo has chimed in and said that it won't be official until the start of the league year, so he's not available now. He'll be available on March 15th, same as everybody else. Not that that really matters that much, but yeah, just for everyone's information. Can't do anything yet. Notable about this release, just to go into some of the little minutiae here, this was not supposed to be the year when releasing Wagner was a realistic possibility. You can see that there are savings involved. The Rams are saving money. If you zoom in here, you can see the dead cap hit is going to be $7.5 million. The savings is 5.25. So the release of Bobby Wagner, unless they choose to designate him as a post-June 1st release, which I guess is possible, you can do things like that, does not save a massive amount of money, and there is a significant dead cap hit here. But the Rams, I mean, they made their deal. They made their Faustian deal, and it worked. But there are things that come back and bite you. You end up having to take on $7.5 million dead on a player you're releasing who, by the way, just had a really incredible year. Look at his PFF grade. God. So yeah, Bobby Wagner is going to be a free agent in March, and we can talk about the little things going on here, like the contractual details of what he had with the Rams and how the Rams are still going to be eating a good chunk of dead money doing this. We can talk about the season he just had, but ultimately, the really intriguing part of this with Bobby is, okay, where does he go now? And the Seahawks, who have a very clear and obvious need at inside linebacker, could they get involved? So let's think about this for a second here, and let's consider it, because, yeah, this might make some sense. So Bobby Wagner, he's going to turn 33 in a couple of months here. So age is starting to become a factor. And yet, if you take a look at his PFF page, you take a look at the numbers that he put up in 2022, it seems like he's still capable of playing some pretty high levels of football. So Jordan Brooks might not be ready to start the season. Cody Barton's a free agent. Who knows what BBK is? I actually saw a report earlier today that BBK is still going to be a Seahawk because he didn't play at all last year. Therefore, he didn't get a year on his contract. So therefore, BBK still here. John Radigan can be brought back easily. Tanner Muse can be brought back easily. But who knows what those guys even are, especially at this point with a guy like BBK who's had a catastrophic injury. So does bringing back Bobby Wagner make sense? Can he add value to the Seahawks? Does he make sense within our financial limitations? And I'm going to, when I say limitations, I don't mean anything beyond what what any other team has. Like, the financial limitations for the Seahawks this year are not hugely significant, of course. But Does he make sense financially? Does he make sense from an on-field perspective? Would he fit in well with a Vic Fangio style defense that I believe we are going to bring back? Because, by the way, Denver hired Vance Joseph earlier today. So it seems like if Sean Desai does not get that Eagles job, he is going to stay. And if he stays, I got to believe we're going to continue to run the same type of defense we ran in 2022. So would Bobby Wagner fit in well with that kind of defense? Probably. Would we be willing, and this is to me kind of the biggest question, would we be willing to utilize Bobby Wagner in the way that the Rams did? Because what the Rams did was they blitzed him more than we ever had. And Bobby had one of his best seasons ever. So that is clearly an effective way to utilize Bobby at his advanced age. So are we willing to do that? Can we do that? Because to me, if we're not willing to do that, then what's the point? So there are a lot of different angles to look at this from, for sure. The main questions to me are, number one, what are the finances? Because I proposed in my dream offseason video that we bring back Cody Barton for about $5 million a year. And if I'm talking about Cody Barton being worth $5 million, what is Bobby Wagner worth? What is he going to command in terms of average annual value? What is he going to command in terms of years? What kind of shenanigans would we have to pull to fit him under our cap? Because remember, we don't really like to do void year stuff, but there are tons of other teams that are totally willing to do void years. So if we want to be able to match some of the offers that Bobby's going to get in free agency, we're going to have to be willing to be creative. We're going to have to be willing to say, okay, we're going to do void years several years down the line to fit Bobby in our books and give him enough money to want to come here. I'm not worried about Bobby not wanting to come back because he's upset that we let him go a year ago. I'm not worried about that. Like, that's whatever. I think he'll get over it. And I am worried about him not wanting to come back for some massive discount versus what he can get at other places. Because, again, look at the season he just had. And remember, he signed, I believe it was a 5-year, $50 million deal with the Rams. Now, he's not going to see hardly any of that money. You can actually see that the amount of money he actually got from the Rams is somewhat minimal. But he's not going to be playing for some minimum deal just because he's a little bit older. No, he signed a pretty nice deal last year. He got a decent chunk of money for just 1 year played, and he played extraordinarily well. So he's going to want some real money. We're going to have to be willing to match his expectations and match what other teams are willing to do. I don't think he'll choose Seattle over everyone else just because of loyalty. And also, and this might even be more important than that, if we're going to bring back Bobby, you better be ready to go for it. When I say go for it, I mean we're going for the Super Bowl. I mean, Adam Schefter said it himself. Wagner wants to win. He does not want to come back to Seattle just for us to kind of stumble around for a season and win 6 games while we get, 20-year-old or 21-year-old CJ Stroud ready to win in a future year. I don't see any point in bringing back Bobby Wagner if you're going to treat 2023 like a little bit of a gap year where you're just kind of stumbling through your growing pains for a new young quarterback, or you've got a gap quarterback like a Drew Lock or a Teddy Bridgewater or whoever. You got to be committed to going all out to win. You got to make a Super Bowl push in 2023. And that means, sorry to people who don't like it, I'm sorry, but it means bringing back Geno Smith 9 times out of 10. So you're going to have to pay Geno, you're going to have to pay Wagner, and then you're going to have to find other ways to improve the team as much as possible. And that includes, by the way, let me stress this, getting him a really good defensive line in front of him. The reason why Wagner, part of the reason why Wagner didn't look nearly as good for Seattle at the end as he did for the Rams last year, well, part of it is because the Rams used him in a much better way. Also because he had a real defensive line in front of him in LA, at least for part of the year. And I'm sorry, but if you put Bobby Wagner out there and he's got Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, Brian Monet, Al Woods, Poona Ford in front of him, you're not going to get very good results, and you're going to end up feeling like the contract, you're not going to get your money's worth. And Bobby's not going to get his time's worth. So if you do this, you got to be like, okay, we are going after a superstar defensive lineman in the draft. We're going to do whatever it takes to bring in Daron Payne. If it means trading our second first round pick for him, then so be it. You've got to be aggressive to give Bobby a defensive line that can make him look good, that can allow him to do the things that he does. Otherwise, what's the point? So I'm open to it. Bringing in Bobby would mean you can let Cody Barton go out the door. You can say bye-bye to Cody Barton. You can definitely have a little more freedom in the draft to say we're going to kick the can down the road on linebacker for another year because this linebacker class is bad. But you're going to have to do other things to make it worth your time, or else you're just bringing him back to sell tickets and make the fans temporarily happy. Give them this temporary high of, oh, we got Bobby Wagner back. I love Bobby. He's my favorite player. Don't let it be that. If you're going to bring back Bobby, bring him back because you want him to be part of a great team. That's my main message here. So I'm definitely intrigued. I'm definitely willing to look into it. I could see Bobby maybe even willing to come back for a little bit less money than he'd get offered elsewhere. But if you think he's going to take way less and go into a situation where it doesn't look like the team's going to be great, I don't see that. So I'm hoping something can happen because Bobby's my favorite player. Bobby is my favorite Seahawk of all time. But make it make sense. Make it make sense financially. Make it make sense in terms of the team structure. Make it make sense. And then I'll start to really get behind it. But hey, kind of nice to at least know we're not going to have to see him in a Rams uniform anymore, at the very least. So, what do you guys think? Can we make it happen? Can we make it work? Does it make sense? How you feeling? Let me know down below. Stream with the Hawks Nest later tonight at 7. Hope to see you guys there. We will definitely talk about this some. Hope to see you there. Go Hawks.